I hope that you'll get a lot out of this evening's presentation. It's going to be an hour and 20 minutes about. So the topic is around developing a green and growing network and working within your local communities, and developing a project. On your panel this evening, so there's myself, so I'm Ian from Incredible Education. We've got Mark Lockwood, who is from one of the Incredible Edible groups, which is IE Prestwich and District. We've got Celia Williams, who's down in Conway, again part of the IE movement, so Incredible Edible Conway. We've got Mark Frith, who like me is based in Salford. Mark's involved with Incredible Edible Salford and with his own organisation, Growing Togetherness. And we've also got Karen, who is over in Knowsley and Merseyside, i.e. Knowsley, but covering quite a lot of Merseyside. So the plan is that we're going to play short video that's been produced from a visit that we did down to each location. Then the host from that location will have 4 or 5 minutes to be able to chat to you and tell you more about their particular location and project. And then at 7 o'clock-ish, we're on for Q&A. So if there's anything that pops up that you want to ask, either in the chat or hold it till then, and we'll hopefully be able to answer those questions. And hopefully we'll be rounding off round about 7:15, 7:20. So the first video is going to be one that we did down at our site. So behind me, if you can see my image, is our community cafe. So we're going to play that short video, and then I'll explain a bit more about what we've been doing over the last, well, 7 or 8 years. Thank you.
I hope this would be seamless, but it'll be close to seamless. Just a quick check. Can you see the video? Is that showing right?
Yes. It's showing a lot of this, the rest of your screen.
Yeah, if you do.
So I'm going to put it into cinema mode. Right, is that better?
Yeah, will it play? That's not me.
What is it doing? I don't know what it's doing.
I think it might be the adverts.
Yeah, there you go. Video will play after ads.
But no, there shouldn't be adverts, should there, Ian? Like,
no.
I'm not adverts on yours, so I think.
No, I think you're on the wrong one there. Is the top of the screen on the wrong tab? I'm not getting any sound.
Oh, gosh. Good.
I'm Ian Bowcott, Director and Educational Lead at Incredible Education. We're a not-for-profit community interest company based in Salford. Incredible Education, we started in 2014, but my journey into community gardening started a year before when I visited Todmorden. We went and did a visit of the IE group there and brought that idea back to Salford and launched an Incredible Edible movement in 2013. It is always important to find out what it is that communities want, and that visit to Todmorden did prove that there was a need, there was an interest in community gardening, and so that sort of led us to ask the questions locally, and we did quite a lot of meetings in the early days of 2013 and brought communities together and organisations together, and that was how really that launched the movement. And then the educational aspect was something that became more apparent as we moved into the first year. With any new project, there's always going to be the ups and downs. Barriers initially, I suppose, is getting out there and being able to speak to people and maybe having the confidence to speak to your local communities. I think it's always interesting that once you start a conversation, you will very quickly find that there are a lot of like-minded people who have that similar interest. Any journey like ours, and hopefully maybe one that you might go on, will always have its successes and your triumphs, and it's really important to celebrate those. Our major success, I suppose, has been the creation of this community garden. We've been in existence for over 8 years, but it's only the last 2 years that we've managed to develop this site into a community asset that people can freely come and visit on a regular basis. Being able to make the organisation much more sustainable by opening a community cafe, having a little garden shop, and our volunteer programme has probably been one of the biggest successes of being in this new location. So one of the final questions that we've been asked is, have we got anything else that we'd like to sort of share about what we do? All I can say is that to really empower others is, try and find like-minded people, go and have a look at other gardens, go out and do a bit of research. The garden that we have got, which has been a sort of a 5-year plan, once you start to do it, you don't always recognise the impact it has. So, do speak to those who are visiting you and just get some feedback from them, because that will really empower you into progressing further in developing your green and growing networks and your community gardens. Brilliant. Thank you, Andrea. Technically at first, but we got there. Well done. So that was obviously myself a few weeks ago, actually, because you're not by that. I had a hat on, whereas today I have my sleeves rolled up and no hat on. It's been gorgeous up in Salford the last few days. In fact, I just saw, hello, Sue Jeffries. I could see you there smiling when I said it was sunny in Salford. Hello there. So yeah, our journey, as I mentioned at the beginning of that film, it was 2013. My background is as a teacher, and I was a special needs tutor at a sixth form college. And I went to visit Todmorden in 2013, came back with the idea of starting an Incredible Edible in Salford. And over a period of a few months, we got people together and looked at what IE was going to be in Salford. Initially, for us at that point, it was mainly organisations that were interested as opposed to individuals, which was quite interesting at the time. And the journey was that as Incredible Edible Salford progressed, there was an opportunity to turn that into a social enterprise, and that was when Incredible Education was launched. So we are, as Incredible Education, CIC, Community Interest Company, and a not-for-profit organisation. And for the last 5 to 6 years, so from 2014 through till 2018, we were operating out of a small allotment where people would come and visit us at that site. But
Ian, sorry to interrupt you, but you've got your camera off and just had a couple of messages in the chat just to see if you can turn it on. It's okay, thank you.
So yeah, we use that site for a number of years, but as those of you who are familiar with allotments, they can sometimes not be the best place to try and bring the public into. So we've always been looking for a new home. So we've had loads of support from our local authorities. Salford City Council have been amazing. They've identified a piece of land which was previously a plant nursery. So the garden that you see behind me, where we now have the community cafe, it's 1.5 acres of land that was an overgrown wilderness. Again, additionally, if you wanted to take a look on our website, so Incredible Education, if you Google Incredible Education, in fact, I'll put it in the chat as well, on the website there for our new community garden, there are photographs of what it used to look like. And although we lived it for the last 2 years throughout the pandemic, we've managed to achieve quite a lot. Advice and help from others, I think, is really important. And I think I mentioned at the start of that little video of myself, was asking people, the local community, what is it that they want? Because the biggest problem, most failures of community gardens are that we decide that it's something that we'd like and we think others might like. And it's really important that we make sure that the local communities that we want to work with have actually got an interest, and that there's some sort of plan of how that will be delivered and maintained over a period of time. Because again, one of the big things that came up, and I'm not too sure it comes up enough in the edited versions of the films, but there will be a longer version of those interviews that we did. And I know, for instance, Mark Lockwood over in Prestwich and District, I remember in part of the conversation we were discussing about volunteers and how you can have those absolute spot-on volunteers who will come regularly and become part of that sort of family. And I know Sealy's had similar experience down in Conway, that you've got those regular volunteers, but you need that regular cohort of volunteers to be able to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. So recapping is, make sure you consult with your neighbourhoods, that's what they want. Build a good base for your volunteers and make sure you reward your volunteers as well and recognise the work that they're doing. So there's an opportunity to ask more questions as we get to Q&A towards the end. I could waffle on forever, as most of those people on here who know me will know that I can waffle. So I'll shut up now, and we're now going to move into the second video, which is Mark at Prestwich and District, and then Mark will chat a little bit more about his project over there. Thank you.
Right, so here we go.
Hello, my name is Mark Lockwood. I'm the Secretary of Incredible Edible Prestwich and District. I'm also the project coordinator for our largest project here in Phillips Park, Whitefield. Incredible Edible iPad started in Prestwich in 2010. It was started by a small group of people who had seen about Incredible Edible in Tonmorden. We have a community event called Prestwich Clough Day, and this small group who decided to start an Incredible Edible had a stall at the Clough Day, and they had over 200 people who were interested in setting up a branch of Incredible Edible in Prestwich. Initially a small core group was started. When I joined, that had been set up, and I joined that core group back in 2011. And here we are over 10 years down the line, still operating. I would just like to see us growing even more. I think we've got we've got well-established projects. We are looking at working with wider organisations, so we're working closely with Lancs Wildlife Trust to try and get people who may have suffered isolation or even mental health problems, which is to come outside as part of their social prescription. We have quite a good relationship with Village Greens, our local co-op, and we're looking at maybe being able to move towards providing produce for them. Social media's played a huge role in the expansion. From small beginnings, we've grown a huge amount now. I would say we have probably over 80 regular contributors, an email list of into the hundreds now, and particularly since the pandemic, younger people wanting to join because of the joy of being outside and volunteering. We've had so many people who've come along, and people come along and say, I don't know anything about gardening, and I say, well, you don't have to know anything about. I'm not a professional gardener. I'm totally self-taught, and I've learned as I've gone on. We have people that have been gardening for years that are really great, that know things. We've got people who just come along and will get stuck in and just like being part of it. Some people are with us right from the start and are still with us. Some people drift in, drift out. Some people come a little bit and then don't. So having a continuity is quite difficult with volunteers. we've been looking at our sort of core group, and we've evolved into now a community business society. So we've got an actual board of dedicated people. So we've got continuity that way. But we, like any organisation, I suppose, the more volunteers that you have, the more that you can do. You have to look after your volunteers, and the social events are really, really important. It's great to do the growing and the work, but you've got to relax, you've got to celebrate, you've got to look after your volunteers. You know, I see us as part of a sort of you know, the whole community aspect, which is very, very important for us. For example, on our Apple Day last year, I think we had over 500 people here in the park. And it's great that people come with their young families and they have a good time, and it gets them out here in the park. I mean, one of the things that was amazing during lockdown was the number of people that came here that didn't even know it existed. You know, people have found these green spaces, and we've got a band of people here now that really want to utilise, expand and make full use of it for the local community.
Brilliant, thanks. That's a lovely film, that. So, Mark, do you want to add anything else that we maybe missed off at the video?
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see everybody. Not a huge amount more. I mean, I like Ian, I was inspired by visiting Todmorden back in 2010. We've actually had Pam Warhurst to open as we've grown. Pam's come over and supported us, and we've had a couple of conferences. We are very lucky in that we've got a fairly good space that we can operate in. I'm very excited about the coming year, particularly with the getting involved with the green social prescribing. One of a local special school are coming, like Ian does, with incredible education. We've got people youngsters from the local school coming once a week. Volunteers continue to want to join us. I can't emphasize too much about getting the communication out there. We're very lucky. Our social media guy used to be in marketing. I don't do it, he does it. But we're always, every week now I get emails or texts from people who are wanting to join. I think there's a huge demand out there that people want to get involved, realise the importance of it. So, you know, onwards and upwards, and get in there, do it, is what I would say. I'm lucky, I'm retired. It's taken over my life, I have to say. But I love it, you know. It's outside. I've got to meet a whole load of wonderful people, and we carry on. I would just emphasize again, and I think Ian said it, your volunteers are really, really important. And so do look after them, celebrate your successes, and carry on.
Brilliant, thanks, Matt. What I would mention as well about the setup for Prestwich and Districts is that they are multi-location as well. So Mark is based at Phillips Park. There's also the incredible sort of forest garden, which is it's in the Clough, isn't it, that, Mark? Which again is a separate location. Yeah. And then you've also, Mark's been quite modest in the fact that he also helped to set up another IE group, which is down in Radcliffe, which isn't far. It's in the same sort of it's the Bury area. So again, a lot of support went on into setting up that group, and also a lot of growing goes on in the public realm within parks as well, and gardens where the public can actually see. So whereas at the growing site at Phillips Park, it's, unless you're going visiting, you're not necessarily going to walk past, but it's an amazing setting. And I know from Mark's experience, during that period, early days of COVID, when there was no traffic on the road, he said the smells of the garden were just so more obvious as opposed to when the traffic is trundling by. But yeah, there's a lot going on in that neck of the woods. And as part of this evening is if there are any questions that come even after these videos, then please do keep in touch. And there's so much knowledge out there that we can all share. So that moves us on nicely.
I'll just say, one thing I think we haven't sort of touched on as well so far, and other people might do later, is there are lots of grants out there as well. We've been, Bury's only a small local authority, but they've been very supportive. Local councillors have given us part of they have grants that they can give to local community projects. We've had money from Forever Manchester, from the lottery, Lottery Community Fund. So it's well worth looking around and finding out what there is, because if you are, there are some things that you might want to build or that do cost more money, and it is possible to get funding for them. I mean, I think in the last year alone, we've had over £5,000 worth of funding that we've been able to access to. So it is worth pursuing.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, there's a whole separate sort of forum for us to discuss funding at some point. Thanks, Mark. That's brilliant. So we're doing really well for timings here at the moment. So the next short video is with Karen that's Karen Mower, who's based over in Merseyside. This is I'll tell you what, I'll let Karen explain after the video exactly what she's managed to achieve there in this beautiful setting that she's got.
I'm Karen Mower. My title is CEO and I'm one of the directors on the board. We set up Incredible Edible Knowsley and we're based at Courthay Park in Huyton and we border Liverpool. 2018 we set up. We was at Huyton Resource Centre initially, but we didn't really have a home, we was just helping out there. And then we got offered Courthay Park, so it used to be the old National Wildflower Centre. When we come on site, it was totally overgrown. There was rubbish all mixed in. Been transforming it bit by bit, and that is thanks to the local community and the volunteering hours that they've put in here. To me, it's pointless doing a community project and doing something if it's not what your local community wants. This project is about the community, but when you come on site and you look around at people, as I was saying earlier, you're seeing people with smiles on their faces, and it's just so nice to see all that. So we get feedback from the community. We've got more and more groups coming along, put Facebook posts up, and we've got over 2,000 people looking at that Facebook post. So that's grew over time. The businesses that are coming on site supporting us, the local Swanside and Roby councillors, the leader of Knowsley Council, they fully back us as well. Yeah, it's just amazing. I don't think anything works unless everyone comes together and supports each other. And we've been so lucky that we've had the councillors supporting us, we've had the community supporting us, other groups and organisations and businesses. And I think because of that, that's what's made us succeed, because one group on their own can't do it. I think you've got to be together. It is community over competition, and I think people need to change their mindset, because sometimes I think they think it's a competition, whereas if you come together, it works. But because COVID happened, we didn't know whether we was going to get closed down, and unluckily enough we didn't. We've been fortunate where we've been able to stay open, but we had a lot of seedlings, so we decided to do a seedling donation because they're supposed to have been planted out across Knowsley. It went out on BBC Radio Merseyside, the Liverpool Echo, in the local newspapers that we had free seedlings. We delivered to over 500 homes in the first year of COVID. We had a lot of schools that started growing on school sites, mental health units, supported accommodations, and then the following year a lot of them people have continued to grow. Because of COVID, it sort of like transferred around, and we've now got people growing at home. It was quite shocking to see that how grateful people were just for these few seedlings and how much it meant to them. Don't think you can turn people away in need. We have people from Liverpool and Knowsley coming to the food club. So I suppose it'll be looking at how we support more people and then supporting groups to set up themselves, because this is a brilliant area, big, but it's not big enough to cover everybody. When we do the seedlings, and we'll get seedlings up and running in March again, we give them to other groups, and then other groups can grow on their grounds, and they can have their own little community groups. If I can grow, anybody can do it. What you've got to do is just trust. You don't need to know everything. Sometimes it is just testing things. Nature changes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And nature's unpredictable, so just go for it.
Brilliant. So I don't know, and I know when I watched this video back after we produced it, there's the smile on Karen's face when she was talking about the smiles on people's faces as they come in and use that facility. And I think that's great, is now it feeds back that it's not just that for the well-being of others, it's also for the well-being of ourselves. Being out in the garden and being able to grow food and be able to share with your local community is so powerful. It really is. So Karen, you've got a few minutes now if you'd like to tell us a bit more. I know your journey is a lot more than what's on that video, so I'll hand over to you.
Hey, don't know where to start really. I just think we're really lucky. We're on a site that is amazing, and I think it's got such a spiritual feel. We've got so much community backing as well from the local councils and the leader of the council. We've got people in businesses, in big businesses that are supporting us. I think we are where we are, and we've been so successful in such a short time because of the community and because people are willing to support it. I think times are changing, and I think people are now going back to these ways of growing and coming together and learning about nature. So I think if anybody wanted to do it, now is the time to do it. We do a lot of work with schools. We're also, I think I sort of told you, Ian, about this.
You're just frozen for a second there, Karen. We'll see if it catches up. Just while we're waiting then for Karen to internet to catch back up.
Growing.
Oh, you're back in. Right. You froze for a minute.
Oh, it's my internet connection for some reason. It keeps saying it's gone weak. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you go back? You just had started talking about schools. So it'd be great to hear kind of what you're doing with schools.
Yeah, so we've had different schools coming on from the local area, and we do work, we work with schools across the Liverpool City region, to be honest with you. Now, when we started doing the seedling donation, we also donated a lot of seeds to schools. So we've got schools growing on their sites. Now, we think what better way of getting people involved in growing and parents involved in that, and grandparents than schools, because they meet so many different people. We've had schools coming on site, and we do little workshops with them, teaching them about, first of all, we do the sensory. So we take them around the park and we get them to open up the sight senses, the smell, the touch, the feel. And we do that with them. Then we bring them on site and we teach them about growing. And then now it's expanding. So we're now, I don't know if you've got the part where we said we're going to be doing an experiment with Liverpool John Moores University, and the schools are going to be involved in that. So we're going to look at how the seasons and how the environment's now changing, the climate. We're going to grow by following seed packets, and then which will teach kids about the climate and the environment. We're going to be teaching kids how to look at nature and read nurturing when they should be growing, and then also look at planting by the moon. And then all this information will be gathered. The kids
Sorry about that, guys. We've lost Karen again. I know when I was down at visiting the centre that Karen was talking about this idea. Sorry, Karen, you froze again, and we lost your explanation.
Hello?
Yeah.
Sorry, it keeps going off. It says it's now medium. Sorry, what was that, Ian?
So you were talking then about this project that you're hoping to do. And I remember you telling me when we came down about this project with the university and around how the seasons are changing and the influence it has on on health, isn't it? There's quite a bit of research you got planned.
Yeah, so we're doing an experiment with schools across the Liverpool about the Liverpool City region, and we're looking at how you grow. So we're going to be following nature, so looking at the seasons, when plants come out, how the animals' behaviour acts, and we're going to be following times before seed packets give you the information, which then will teach kids how to grow and also appreciate the local environment and get to know the local environment. We're going to be planting by the moon because the moon controls the waters in the ground, and then also following seed packets and see which comes back the best way of growing.
Brilliant, thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Karen? You okay for the moment?
No, I'm okay. I'm aware my internet connection keeps going off, so I don't know what you've got and what you haven't.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Just to add, so I've known Karen since 2017, 18, wasn't it? 2018.
Yeah.
So through the Incredible Edible Network, there was some funding that came through to appoint regional facilitators, and Incredible Education was one of those. And at that point, we were supporting groups to get started. We were supporting those that existed, but also helping other groups to get started. Unfortunately, that funding was only over 2 years, and we still do some voluntary work around that. So again, for myself, I cover a lot of the Northwest groups. So if there is anybody in the Northwest area who's on here tonight and wants to have any further conversations, then I'm more than happy to take those up. And if you're interested in finding more about the IE network particularly, and Seela, who's going to be on the last of the videos, is based down in Conway, so Seela covers the whole of Wales, believe it or not. But again, there's so many people on here. I mean, I think we've got in excess of sort of 70 odd people on here this evening. So there's a lot, if you think about it, there's a lot of knowledge there to be shared. Time-wise, we're doing brilliantly, 1840. So it's now time to find out about Mark and his garden down in Salford with Growing Togetherness. Brilliant.
My name's Mark Frith, I'm a director of Growing Togetherness CIC. We work in partnership with the Friends of Bewell Hill Park to run what's called Seedley Community Gardens and Cafe, based in the south side of Bewell Hill Park. We're all volunteering on the site at the moment, working hard to bring the community together and get them growing their own food along the side of Incredible Edible Salford. Even on a cold February day, it's still magical. The park was built in 1876. Some really good energy on this south side of the park. And for me, you know, working with Incredible Edible, working with the croquet team, looking at the history, so reflection again on the history of this site's development. I've just spent a fortune on old postcards to showcase what the park was like in its heyday. So I want to recreate that, bring that love back into it. In 2011, that Start Creative commissioned me to come and work on the site, and we converted the bowling green into a community allotment, but mainly focusing on health and well-being. So we had referrals from the GPs going into Start, and they came out and did horticulture on site with us. And then we've built up links with the local schools to do group work with the schools. We're not that far from Media City or Manchester city centre, so it's a lovely space and you could be a million miles away. Not everyone likes reflection because it can be painful and it's sometimes easier to forget what's happened and move on. But yeah, I'm constantly at the end of the day thinking, how's it gone, what's happened? But it's human nature to just look at the negatives. It's very easy for someone to come and criticise and say there's a weed in the garden, or there's no flowers, or that plant's dying, or you're not harvesting that fruit. Then to turn it around and say, but why are you looking at negatives? Look at the positives. We've got the cafe crew We've got the croquet group, we've got the allotment people, we've got the Incredible Edible Volunteers groups, we've got Salford City Singers, we've got the Junior Park Run, we've got Salford Wildlife. The fact that people are coming, they're talking to each other, they're regularly building up these strong connections and friendships, and quite deep and meaningful friendships, you know. So all these little community groups have started to find what we've created here, and that word of mouth has been very important for us to work with, you know, people that live hyper-local, but then for them to bring their friends and bring their passions on board. It's that meaningful relationship, isn't it, that, you know, you're sharing the 5 ways to well-being, you know, you're getting active, you're sharing and you're learning new things. How can we reimagine what the parks, the Victorian parks should be, which is like edible landscapes? You know, how do we create that foraging pathway for people and then create a space that inspires someone to come and do something different? That's the way to change the world, is these little pockets of inspiration, like Incredible Edibles and the networking that they've brought together. I always say it's brought all the crazy gardeners together on social media. I don't see any boundaries of where the network starts and finishes, and the CIC model that we set up was to look at working models and bringing best practice in here. You know, part of my travelling when I was younger, I went to New Zealand to look at Incredible Edible over there, and that was a guy that had moved from Liverpool to set up the group. So it's not a location, it's a mindset. So it's how you get these people communicating. And there's loads of different types of people in horticulture, like there are loads of different types of plants, so some work better with others. You know, I mentioned about companion planting and antagonistic planting, so it's the same in human nature, is how the people work together, and having different types of groups works because everyone can find their own space. You know, that communication, compassion, community and creativity are the core words that I use in everything, because if you don't have compassion, what's the point of having a community?
So that was Mark's little video from Salford in Buell Hill Park. So Mark, if you'd like to chip in there and see if there's anything else you'd like to tell us about your journey so far. I know one of the questions I was asking people for this evening was, and particularly for yourself, with that journey. I think that was one of the interesting things, was your background and how you came into to be doing what.
Oh, looks like we lost Ian now. Yeah, I mean, Ian was saying we're doing well on time. I think for those on here that know me, I can talk more than Ian, so we might run over time. But if I do, Andrea, just give me a nudge on that.
I will, yes. We've got 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
Set the alarm for me. Anyway, I've just had a flick through all the names, and it's lovely to see some familiar names and faces that I've met on my journey. So those that don't know me, I've been volunteering since 1990 when I left school. I was brought up in the pub trade and always been involved in community growing and gardening. I was lucky enough to have a big garden in the pub that we had, so growing food and having pets on there was a great experience for me. But yeah, I mean, I met Ian, how long ago is it now?
2013.
A bit before that. It was when I was at when Start Creative commissioned me, and yeah, it was amazing. You know, I'd left my career working at the university as an administrator, and I've been following the Incredible Edible Network since it was launched. Like I say, I've been volunteering on community gardens and things, and when I saw Incredible Edible launched on social media, it was, as I said in the video, all the crazy gardeners coming together and wanting to change the world that had been isolated in pockets around the cities. So yeah, having that easy means of communication was kind of fantastic for me. And when I'd left the university, I went back to study sustainable communities, regeneration, and wildlife conservation. And a lot of that was inspiration from kind of losing my sister. She'd passed away in that year, the same year as my nan died, and I ended up living in South Africa for a short time and kind of seeing food poverty around the world. and the loss of knowledge of how people can be more self-sufficient was quite scary, really. You know, we'd become so reliant on supermarkets that we'd lost that knowledge of the earth, of how we can grow our own food and share it in a kind of community setting. So yeah, I was employed by Start, and we converted the bowling green at Seedley Parkside within Bewell Hill Park. And I see Sue Jeffries is here. She took over the project when I left to work at Hume Garden Centre. And it's thanks to her and Start that, you know, these gardens infrastructure at the Seedley Park site kind of grew and developed to the way it is. And just before COVID, 2019, I'd kind of gone freelance, working in schools, and a farmer had employed me to do a community garden with them. And I kind of was looking for a base. I live in a flat in Salford, and I didn't really have anywhere to showcase the skill sets that I'd developed over the 10 years of working in community gardens. So when the council came and said, you know, this site was free again, I kind of grasped it after 10 years of kind of starting it, then coming back with all the extra work that Sue and Start had added to it was kind of fantastic. And then obviously COVID hit. I mean, who could have predicted, you know, the whole world going into lockdown and people being told, you know, stay away, isolate. And I was just about to launch a community cohesion project. You know, I felt like everyone was against me, kind of, you know, but working really, really closely with the council. And I think reflecting on what Mark and Ian have said, it's, you know, communication and your network is very, very key in this. You've got to make sure that everyone's on board with the site and making sure that people want a community garden. There's no point in creating something that no one wants to get involved in. And so when kind of COVID hit, I put a sign on the fence and said, if you want to come and play, come and join us. And I was inundated. Within a month, we had 50 people sign up to come and take over the plots within the site, and kind of we developed it from there. We dug out a wildlife pond. We created a community cafe, which is now run as a pay-as-you-feel site. And then last year, a year after kind of the volunteering, we set up a community interest company. And that was a way of kind of following Ian's model of, you know, looking at how we can make these organisations self-sustainable. Because it's great to rely on volunteers and ask friends for favours and bring in donations. But I think to develop and grow an organisation and bring in that something can be quite expensive thing. We're looking at the moment to kind of reintroduce a Victorian greenhouse to the site. And, you know, the starting price for something like that's 25, 30,000. So as much as I can talk and kind of try and persuade people to invest in it, the CIC model was a great way for us to look at generating income. And we did a fundraising campaign with Incredible Edible Salford last year, and they were lucky enough to raise just short of £11,000 on a crowdfunder. And that money now is getting reinvested back into the site, along with other income that's being generated from projects where we're looking after the Working Class Movement Library Garden, supporting the volunteers there. And now the biggest income stream that we're looking at is social prescribing, how referrals from GPs can help to bring income to generate the resources we need to build the infrastructure of the site. And that's kind of, you know, my dream and my passion. You know, I ran away from a career in an office, having dealt with, you know, stress in the workplace. That was something I didn't even know about. I didn't know I was dyslexic, and having to do administration for a whole school within the university caused quite a bit of anxiety and stress for me. So I found solace in nature. And that's what I want to share with people as well, is that, you know, sometimes there's a different balance in this world. Working hard, earning lots of money for your retirement, going away on holidays 3 weeks of the year is great if you've got that kind of drive for it. But if you want to slow down and kind of live the good life, I mean, those of you that are old enough to remember the TV series The Good Life, that was one of my inspirations. You know, what can you do to bring back that positivity? You know, getting your hands dirty, bringing the positive bacteria back into the human body, and supporting communities. You know, telling people it's okay to go out and get muddy. You can have a shower, get changed. You know, enjoy yourself, explore nature on there.
Thanks,
But
Mark.
it does all boil back to the community. So there's my 5 minutes up, and
after rain,
thank you.
Yeah, it's we can both we're both known for talking. Interesting what you were saying then. There was a question that came in which I've done a response to, but there was a question about how many groups, particularly somebody else asking a question about IE groups, but how many sort of growing groups are solely run by volunteers and those that are set up as social enterprises. So again, there's another sort of possible questions there towards the end, because some are purely voluntary based and some are go into paid employment for people. So thanks, Mark, for that contribution. That's brilliant. We're now over to our last film, which is Celia from down in Conway. I'm always very jealous of the fact that there's not many other growing groups that can say that they have got a castle, and it always annoys me. But anyway, hand over to Celia now.
Right, Celia is coming up.
My name's Celia Williams. I'm one of the founder members of Incredible Edible Conway. This is Mike Mosey, who joined us with Kath Mosey, his wife, in 2017. And this is Libet here, Libet Williams, whose kitchen we are now sitting in. And this is where we normally sit on a Wednesday morning when we're about to start a session, one of our Incredible Edible gardening sessions.
This is the centre of our incredible edible world,
Absolutely,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yes,
the coffee sessions do tend to elongate.
But we are, I mean, we're very fortunate I think there are very few groups that have got a garden share where we can come, you know, every week and not be on show in a town. Because it's nice being in town, but it's different to being here.
Yeah.
And we do feel we can come and go when we want. We're made extremely welcome. And it's just really, really nice.
And for me, it's marvellous because lots and lots of social contact.
This has been growing over the last sort of 7-8 years, really, and it feels like home when we come here. Really does, yeah. Incredible Edible is a brand that's out there already. We knew of it. We just thought, well, why not here? Because if it's working in other places, I'm sure that there will be people around here that would like to get involved as well. You know, having a meeting, a community meeting, that's how we gauged whether or not there was any more interest, whether it would have legs to go or not. The following meeting, we had about 15 people drop off, but we got a nice core group from that meeting that then took it forward, and as it went on, more people joined in. But I think having that brand of Incredible Edible possibly did really help us. There were times when things were a little bit rougher, but you get through it. You know, we got through it as a team, and yeah, it's just been an achievement to get to where we are.
Any new startup very often has a lot of interest to begin with, but then might well fade off, leaving you with, you know, more than you can cope with in terms of maintenance. So start off small, don't get over ambitious, and be flexible and welcoming. When we do garden on the very public areas, the amount of visitors that Conway gets, you know, both locals and visitors, the amount of good feedback that we get reinforcing what we're doing. I think that motivates us a lot
Yeah,
more, doesn't it?
yeah.
As I say, the number of visitors that ask us what we're doing, you know, and then get on to the question of, well, what is Incredible Edible?
Yeah.
And you explain that there's a network, and there might well be a network near where you live. It's not just our own group that we're promoting, you know, it's other groups in the network as well.
We get a lot of questions about what certain things are. So when we're gardening, people say, you know, especially if it hasn't got a label, what is it? And then that gets into the wider conversation about growing. And there is a lot of ignorance over what you can grow, what is edible, what isn't. And I think it is partly education that we are talking to people who have never even considered what they could grow in the middle of a town. And it's really nice. We always get some good feedback, don't we?
For me, it's been such a positive thing. I've got like a whole sort of different world of friends and shared interests. It's just with a group of like-minded people, and it's just been such a positive thing for me to do. I can't imagine my life without it now.
Right. Thanks. That was really nice. And the other thing that makes you really jealous of that video was that lovely chocolate and orange cake, which sat just at the front of the table, which I'm sure everybody was looking at thinking, I'm hungry. So, Celia,
oh, thanks, Ian. Yeah, we really enjoyed your visits. I don't think we explained quite how we did start. I think we were, in that video, we were sitting in our garden share with Libet. But actually, we started as an arm of a local business, which was a food festival in Conway, which happened every autumn, which was, you know, a good time for food, because that's when you have all your harvest festivals and things like that. So the town of Conway had a strong connection with local food anyway through this festival. And there used to be projects started each year, new projects to bring more interest to the festival. And one year, I used to work for this festival as well. And we thought, gosh, wouldn't it be really nice if we could have fruit trees dotted around the town, so that the people coming to the festival could just pick an apple as they walked by. And then we thought, oh, we'd be just like Todmorden if we did that. And then that kind of clicked then into something else, it set the wheels in motion as, ooh, maybe we could start a group, and maybe we've got something here. So that was how it started, and we're still connected with the business as well. And I'd just like to say too as well that we started small, as Mike said in the video, but we're a constituted group. Not some groups decide, that they don't want to go down that sort of formalizing way of thinking. They just rather do, a little bit of growing here and there, which is fine. But sometimes a constitution, I can't even say it, it helps because, it helps you to get funding. It helps you to get a bank account, all these sort of formal things that maybe, you don't think about to begin with. But yeah, it's a really useful piece of paper to have. And then after about 18 months, we realized we needed somewhere to bring plants on, because it was getting quite expensive buying bits of plants here and that. There was a lot of plants donated to us from allotments as well. But that's where Libet came in. One of our group was a gardener for her, and she said, well, I know this lady who's got a large garden. She said we can use some of it if we would like, and that's where that started. And we also got an agreement in place with Libet, just to sort of formalize it there too, just to make sure that nobody sort of overstepped their mark, as it were. And it was quite a simple agreement to begin with. And at the moment, I think as we've gone on, we've kind of forgotten it's there, because we're all quite friendly, and Libet's just like a friend to everybody. But every time we have a new member joining, we bring out this garden share agreement again and say, look, this is what's here, this is what's in place. just so that they've read it and they know, you know, where they stand really. And yes, celebrating volunteers is really, really key as well. I've heard that mentioned a few times tonight. But we have, well, one of our members actually made a ceremonial dibber, and every year we have a big party near Christmas, and somebody gets presented with this ceremonial dibber, you know, for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be that they've been the best gardener at all. It might be, you know, the person that always turned up late or something like that, but we find a reason to give it to somebody, and you know, give out things like chocolate medals to people as well, or whatever, you know, but we try and make them feel special. And I think Ian wanted me to talk a little bit about being a facilitator as well. So actually, the whole group felt as though they had that position as well. It wasn't just me. They were so excited about it because they felt that they'd been picked. I think they were more excited about it than me to begin with, but they felt privileged, and it was really great to be able to share what we'd learned with all these people that kept coming to visit. I think in the high season, we must have had somebody every couple of weeks coming to see what we were doing. And these were all people that were potentially going to start a food growing group. Hopefully, you know, we were trying to convince them to be an incredible edible, but, you know, it could have been a different sort of growing group as well. But, you know, we were there to sort of share our story. And it was just such a privilege to be able to be in that position to do that. Let me think, well, what else can oh yeah, it really motivated us as well, being in that position to do more projects. So we did things like we did an incredible hedgerow, you know, which we invited schools to come along to it. We put a poster up to say it was happening. We had about 70 people turn up to help us plant a hedgerow. We also are working with a local school now as well. And tomorrow we're working with a back to work group who are going to come and plant seeds with us. So it's just been, you know, as I said, a really positive experience completely, I would say. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Celia. That's brilliant. As I say, it's if there is another growing group out there that has a castle, please let me know.
There is actually.
Is it?
Skipton in Yorkshire. I've got a castle. Okay. We keep thinking we're going to twin with them, but we haven't got round to it yet.
Lovely. So we've now got to the point of the evening where we're going to open up for Q&A. If there's anybody got any questions, before we do, I would just say a very big thanks to Celia, to Mark, and to Karen and to Mark for allowing us to go down and visit them and do the filming. Although he's not here, also thank you to Jack, who's produced the videos. We're really pleased with the outcomes of those, and they will be available to view. As I say, there will be a longer version with the sort of edited but some unedited bits in. So I think the best way with the Q&A is, as we've had a top corner of my screen, is it Shanjit has put a hand up? Is if anybody's got questions, put your hands up, and if either Andrew or Claire can let us know who's doing that, that'd be great. So the first one I've seen is Shanjit, so please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. It's so nice to hear all the new stories. Oh, it's wonderful because we have a disability community allotment, which is led by disabled people and long-term ill health people. Now, if any other organizations wants to work with us, I would like to have a copy of the contract to sign, you know, when we sign with each other, so they know where they stand and what they can contribute to the garden and what they can't. So as I was listening to this young lady, she was trying to explain that they've got documents in place, contract in place. So I would like to have like a sample of that. It'll be nice. Also, if there's any funding available for gardens and allotments, it would be nice to share with each other as well.
Yeah, the funding element certainly. What part of the country are you in?
I am in very near Heathrow Airport.
Where? Sorry, say that again.
Heathrow Airport.
Oh, right, okay. Heathrow.
Yes.
And did you say it was a GAN where you're working with people with disabilities, did you say?
We are disabled people-led organization and disabled people-led garden and allotment as well.
Right.
Community allotment.
So the idea of maybe some of the sort of constitutions and maybe some of the agreements that groups have got will be useful. Brilliant. Okay, well, I think the idea is that we'll take a note of all those sorts of questions that we maybe not necessarily give at the moment. But is there anybody on the panel who's got anything else that they can add to that with regards to support on sort of contracts that you might have with those that visit? Go on, Mark.
I'm happy. I've got a few different types of them. I would always say it's better to create your own. Perhaps get a working party with people that are really keen on setting the boundaries of the site. On that kind of thing, I would always keep it simple. Try not to go over a page or 2 pages at the most, because my experience is people don't read it all and they don't understand it all. So keeping it quite short and concise, and kind of getting a working party from your team to do that would be good. Your local community volunteer organisations have standard policies that you might like to have, and there's risk assessments with Incredible Edible on the website that I've seen. On the funding element, I would say probably the airport would be your first point of contact. Most airports have pots of money that they share out with community groups in the area. But yeah, always find out what you want first before you go for money. That's the biggest one, because you might be lucky and find it for free and you don't have to go through the hassle of raising the funds then.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So I'm scanning the page. I can see Mark's hand. Well, Mark's hand was up. I'm not seeing any other hands up at the moment. Are you seeing anything there, Andrea? I'm not seeing any other hands up. Is there any other questions?
I'm just looking, like there's just such brilliant stuff in the chat. So I hope it looks like people have like been asking and answering questions there. Yeah, but definitely if there's anyone else.
Do the answer in the chat? Do the answers? Because I know I've answered some people directly with stuff. Do they still appear for us to look at later?
Yeah, I'll save them so I can get in touch with people. And just to say that I am like a resource. So I've put my email and my name in the chat, so feel free to get in touch with me. But I can see that other people have done the same thing, which is brilliant. So so hopefully you don't need me if you can already see that connection. But if you need to make a connection or have more questions for anyone, yeah.
Andrea, sorry, Sue has got her hand up.
Yeah, I was just about to.
Sorry, I didn't know if you'd seen it or not. It's hard to tell when you've got so many people on the screen.
I know, it's lovely. Yeah, so Sue Jeffries.
You're on mute, Sue.
It had to happen once, Sue.
Yeah, there we go. That's what. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, great to hear from people. That's a really inspiring project, as always. Something I asked in the chat, and I was just going to repeat it out loud as well, was there's a lot of chat about green prescribing, isn't there, all around the country, and how so important it is and that. But I was just wondered what people's experience was in terms of funding for green prescribing, because I know in my local area, in Blackburn and with Darwen in Lancashire, we have people now who are called social prescribers, and they're prescribing referrals from GPs to all different sorts of services in the local community. But they're generally just looking for free places, and in my experience, there's no money that comes with that. And I think it was interesting actually, in terms of what Mark was saying about the park in Salford, is I have lost count of how many little funding bids have gone into that space. There's just been loads, isn't there, over the years. You get a little bit of money for this, a little bit of money for that. Sometimes you get staff, sometimes it's just for buying wooden sleepers to make the beds, but there's very little ongoing, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I just wondered if people felt there's been any sea change about that recently at all.
Quite interesting, because we have got one other person who's sat on here whose screen's blanked out at the moment. I'm sure he'll jump in a minute. So within Salford, from a funding, and I know I answered you directly with some of those. So we received some funding back in 2019, which led into 2020, just pre-pandemic, which was the Neighbourhood Impact Fund, which allowed us to launch a kind of a social prescribing project. But the referrals into that just did not work. We recruited most of those people that came onto it, and we still run that as a volunteer group on a Thursday afternoon. So that started July 20, and it's still running today. There was a recognition from the funders locally that there was a need for some more funding to enable us to do that. But I've been told a number of times that there will be funding, as you just pointed out there, that as Mark will sort of echo, is it's all right having these little bits of pots of funding, but how do we then continue that beyond that funding? And what we've been told is about making ourselves sustainable, which is why we've now launched our community cafe. We've launched our early years stay and play on a Tuesday morning. We're now doing children's birthday parties on a weekend. And we've now got a garden shop where we're selling produce. So until at which point social prescription means that somebody's fee for prescription comes directly to us, which is difficult because I don't know, a prescription is something like £9 something for a one-off prescription of pills that will last you a month. How can you possibly fund that? I don't know. I think so. There's a lot of research yet to go into that. There's a lot of hands have gone up, so it's interesting to see. So if I can see Marie Turk. So Marie, if you want to pop in with your answer first of all, or your question, and I'll try and pop around the screen.
Yeah, so it's to do with the social prescribing. We had no luck whatsoever when it first came out. But in Wales, we don't have a charge for prescription. So I don't know if that's why there's no budget. Could possibly be. But they said that they wanted us to run some sessions, and there was no tools or anything. And I said, do you have a small budget to at least get us some tools? It was in the early days when we first set up Incredible Edibles, and they didn't even have a budget for tools. And then they kind of got in touch with us a few times over the years, or I got in touch with them, and nothing came of it. So I just gave up.
Right. Yeah. It's again, I wasn't aware that was the case in Wales.
Yeah, it is, because we've had the same experience as well. And then you get people coming along saying, oh, we've been prescribed to come to you, that knowing when we meet, and then we go, oh, right, okay, we didn't know you were coming. And you've got to then be careful that you don't take on somebody who's got more issues than you can actually deal with.
Yeah. And it is about whose responsibility, isn't it? Because if somebody's then signposted to you, but you're there just to run a general volunteer session, and you don't know what or who that person is coming with any issues that you can't deal with. Richard,
you're not sorry, Ian. What I was going to add was we're not trained, are we?
No, we're not. That's part of the problem. Sorry, Richard Claxton. Hi, Richard.
Hiya. Just a little bit about me. I'm a GP in West Kent, so and I'm kind of aware of the funding issues from a commissioning point of view. As a social prescription, it carries no fee for the providing organisation. There's a massive disconnect in this as a policy. It's not been thought through, and there is a degree of spin around it that I think it's quite easy to become quite cynical about. So your social prescribers are attached to every GP surgery, and there's this huge sort of groundswell of positivity about therapeutic prescribing of horticultural therapy and so on. But they're assuming that the charities, and they are mostly charities that provide the horticultural therapy, will have their own other income streams.
Yeah.
Now that is clearly inadequate for the scale of ambition that we collectively have and that the country collectively needs. So then what's happening is, and Sue Jeffries and I have been meeting about this in other forums and various other people, Imogen as well. What then happens is that the therapeutic gardens then have to try to somehow get commissioned separate income streams from the integrated care systems, who are the commissioning bodies regionally, who give out money to organisations based on evidence of performance. So Imogen and Sue will know we've been talking about that and how gardens and therapeutic horticulturalists demonstrate their worth. And that's tricky because that means that you've got umpteen different gardens and different models, be they community interest companies or charities, and they're all doing slightly different things with slightly different people in slightly different ways. So how can you then demonstrate that in a regional level that will enable commissioners to spend NHS and social care budget on? Another way of doing it has occurred to me, and I'm exploring this in West Kent. You may be aware that the social prescribers attached to your GP practices are all sort of basically attached to a network of practices called a primary care network. Yeah. These have been in existence in England, certainly for, I'm not sure about Wales, Scotland or Northern Ireland, but in England, certainly they've been around for the last 2 or 3 years. And with them comes money, because the government is sort of prime pumping GP surgeries to stop acting autonomously. Sorry, I know I'm going on, but I think this is an important piece of information.
Oh, please do. I'm going to say I'm going to bring Martin in after you, because Martin is involved with the social prescribing stuff. So, but yeah, go on, carry on, Richard. Sorry.
So these primary care networks are a way that the government sees of breaking down the silos and fragmented landscape of care in the NHS in primary care. They really hate individual GP practices working independently of each other. And so what they've done is they've given money to PCNs to work together and employ various people. Traditionally, I say that, it's only been 2 years, but the initial monies went to people like paramedics or community pharmacists or nurse practitioners. And so they're employed by the network of practices, not by individual practices, but they work and their money is funded. They can include people called health coaches. In Tunbridge, what I'm trying to do is found a therapy garden that uses people who we call health coaches, but they've been, and they're being employed by us, but using the social prescribing company as an umbrella, and they have horticultural therapy experience, or if they haven't, they're going to get trained in horticultural therapy. So we're going to have a therapy garden, and there's nothing to stop us doing this in an established garden. So if there was a CIC or a social enterprise or an Incredible Edibles garden, then they could generate income to employ staff, not infrastructure, but to employ staff to actually do the work under an NHS umbrella. And so that's another way that I can see we in small localities. So Tunbridge is a town of, effectively, we've got about 60,000 people, 5 practices, and we've got money for 2 whole-time equivalent health coaches to work in a therapeutic horticulture setting. So this is another way of doing it. There are other ways. There are little pots of money. They're not sustainable. There's the NGS grant system where you can get up to £5,000 if you want to buy a shed or get a fence fixed. And then there's a one-off in each of the home countries, a new RHS award for something very fancy. RHS want to do community gardens in each of the home nations with fancy designers, and then that can be well publicized, but that's a bit niche and it's not going to help us all. So PCNs and social prescribing is a possible way of doing it in your locality.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, it's that particular project up there at RHS was just one garden off, but they have had recently they did an RHS Wellbeing Fund as well. Martin, can we bring you bring you in?
Yeah, sure, by all means. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is Martin Wilcock. I work for Salford Community and Voluntary Services, and I'm new to post as a Green Space Development Officer, working for a programme called Wellbeing Matters, which is about mental health and wellbeing, and using green social prescribing as a way to address those issues in Salford. We've been quite fortunate because Greater Manchester has been selected as one of 7 pilot projects through NHS England to look at green social prescribing, and with the infrastructure that we've got in Salford, we've been selected as one of the 4 areas within Greater Manchester to look at the model that we've got. And we've actually had some funding to support organisations to deliver social prescribing, and though the organisations, a number of them are in this meeting, have actually put a bid in, which has been assessed by the panel next week. So we could actually sort of try to start funding some proper social prescribing, green and blue space social prescribing activities in Salford. So that's the way it's working here, and this is, like I say, as part of a national pilot scheme from NHS England to look at how social prescribing can be delivered across the country, hopefully, with some support of some funding to make sure that the activities can be delivered and supported. So that's the situation in Salford. Like I say, I only know for this part of Greater Manchester. That's the area I'm concentrating on, and like I say, there's a number of organisations I'm familiar with in the meeting, but hopefully something like this should be starting to be rolled out further across the country with a bit of luck.
Thank you, Martin. So Karen, you've got your hand up, and then we've got Mark with his hand up, and then I think we should be right. Then we're heading towards 30:30. So Karen.
We don't exactly do social prescribing, which we've looked at, and we have got information on that, but it can be, we do have doctors referring people in and just sending them to be a volunteer, but we do direct referrals, where we get referrals in from adult social care and other organisations who work with adults with either learning difficulties or disabilities and mental health. And what we offer is therapeutic horticulture. And that works quite well, and you get an income coming in from that as well, which then can support staff members to support other people coming on site. It's a regular, sustainable income. And what we do is we work with people to get them ready so they then can go out to basically start volunteering themselves and actually go on to possibly get jobs in the future, because we work with the social workers and look at what that person's need is, and we use the therapeutic horticulture to work with that person to work with what their needs are, and improve their quality of life. So that's a way that you could look at it as well.
So you, the direct payment system, is that the access to the funding, is it?
Yeah, you get paid for it. So I'm not 100% sure how it works on the social workers side, but each person who is involved in social services, adults with learning difficulties, disabilities, they're allowed a certain amount of money where they can go. So instead of going into daycare centres, before COVID in Northern, there was a lot of daycare centres, and they want to get away from that because people have so many abilities. They don't want to just be stuck in a daycare centre. So rather than paying a daycare centre for a person to sit inside there, they would pay a service like us to provide therapeutic horticulture for that person.
Okay, might follow up on that then, directly with you. I'll speak to you directly at some point, and we'll have a further chat about that. Right, so
I've also got worksheets and everything that we do, so I can always pass them on to you. So we do things where we show, and we work with that person as well. So they've got their own little portfolio. So if they did go into a job in the future, it shows how they've succeeded through times and how they've gained them skills.
Great, thank you. That's brilliant. So Mark, you've got 3 minutes. He'll never do it. Turn your mic on though.
Yeah, just reaffirming what Karen said. So direct payments is a way forward. I've done work in Bolton, Salford and Manchester, around that. And I'm lucky I've kind of got hands-on experience with my dad. So working your way through that benefit system is good. I mean, one of the things I did when we set up the CIC, I dug out a GP, a psychologist, a counselling therapist, an NHS administrator, and myself as board members, so that I had literally inroads into all the organisations that I could think of. Basically, what Richard was saying is the people at the top haven't thought the process all the way down, and the processes are already starting to change. So within Greater Manchester, all the primary care networks are going to be merged into one pretty soon, and then funding pots are going to be in different avenues. So it's constantly finding this grant income can be a pain in the proverbial. So I've gone down a different route and gone for basically large institutions that I'll sponsor the organisation. So looking at how you can work with philanthropic people to deliver other activities on your site. So Working Class Movement Library pay me quite a large rate, which is then match funded by another organisation to deliver the work that I do at Seedley Park. To answer Sue, all the work I've done within Seedley Park for the past 18 months has been as a volunteer. No one's been paid for that work, which basically is kind of my pleasure of being able to volunteer in something that I really enjoy. And I appreciate not everyone has that position to do it. If you are really interested in doing therapeutic horticulture, though, I would highly recommend looking at Thrive. There's a charity that's been offering training around therapeutic horticulture. And don't underestimate the type of people that you will get referred into this arena, because I've worked in this sector since 2009. And what I've had to deal with, I don't think many GPs would kind of have to deal with as an untrained professional without a level of support in the charity sector. And that's why, I guess, with my CIC, I'm constantly looking at how we can improve best practice and offer support for the grassroots deliverers of this therapeutic intervention work that isn't very heavily funded or supported in that way. So yeah, it's not all negative. You know, there are pots of money out there, and like I say, the big institutions are seeing the benefits of natural capital, and plus all the carbon emission policies that are coming out and sustainability issues. You can kind of jump on the bandwagon with that to get them to sponsor the health and well-being of the staff and promote the outside. So I think, did I manage to do that within the three?
You know what, spot on that, 1930s, just literally tick round. So thank you to everybody for your attendance. Just hello to some of the people whose face haven't popped up. So hello, Mr. Andrew Simpson, I saw your name was on there. Just a few people I know locally. Love doing this. It's been great. Love doing the videos, putting all that up together, and hopefully people have found it really useful. I'm just going to hand over to Andrea just to sign us all off.
Yeah, just a huge thanks to everyone for coming and for using the chat in such an amazing way. I think it's really brilliant that happened. And I think I will promise that we'll do a session on green prescribing. Like I also in my previous life as a lecturer at University of Salford, like we did a lot of work with Wellbeing Matters and also with Thrive. So I think it would be a really interesting session also around care farming. So I don't know, there might, I think if you've got any interest, some people have already messaged me in the chat, but definitely get in touch if you would, if you have thoughts about that. We can craft a session. I think that could be really interesting to follow up some of those issues, especially, and then the mental health issue, especially, because I know that was a huge, just the huge increase that everyone's seeing in mental health, issues around mental health and sort of the severity of issues. So I think that'd be brilliant. And I think we, in terms of people involved in community gardening and like are seeing that increase as well, but also a great place to help people and support people through that. So, and we'll have a few sessions around that connection as well, coming up in May. So yeah, so just encourage everyone to be on the mailing list if you're not already. We do it very sparingly, and just a huge thanks, and be in touch if you've got questions or ongoing ideas for future sessions. And then please also, there's a link to the type form in the chat, but you'll also get a follow-up email just with that information. So yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of what worked here, what we could have done better, and what you would like to see in the future.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Holly, for your comment there. So that last one. Also, Mark, Celia, Karen.
Oh, amazing. Your videos were amazing, so thank you. Yeah, it was a brilliant.
Good evening, everybody. Bye-bye.